I was stuck. I was not feeling great about myself. I was just questioning so much. And I know there's so many ladies out there that are like that, whether we've come through, and I think, that midlife lady, I think we bring up our families. We so much into our lives, into our careers or our businesses. And, our family and extended family takes so much from us. And that's a beautiful thing. But there's a point where we get to in our life, and generally what I've noticed is it's us midlifers. It's we hit 50 and we're looking for that next thing, and it's not a next hit, it's that next thing. I'm going to a different phase.
All right. Welcome back, friends, to the Discovering Your Calling podcast. I am your host, Sherry Miter, and today we are joined by one of our Discovering Your Calling Academy alumni. And welcome, Lee, to the podcast.
Thank you, Sherry. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you around what made you join the Academy and what you got out of it. But let's start with just a little bit of introduce yourself and tell, the listeners a little bit about who Lee is and what you're doing today.
Sure, no problem at all. All right, so I'm Lea Bartram. I live in Christchurch, New Zealand. So we're in winter. We're on the other side of the world from you guys. And I'm married. We live on a half an acre of beautiful garden here in New Zealand. And I feel like I've done my role. We've got a son. He's nearly 20. I've brought him up around working around my own business, working from home. And I'm transitioning into a new phase of my life. So I'm a business growth coach. So I work with women, midlife women mostly, helping them get that helicopter view of their life so they can really unpack where they're at and where they're going. And I've also done a bit of career transition work over the last few years. My background is recruitment and I've worked in IT. So I've got all these beautiful strengths and talents, and it's like, okay, now what's next? So I'm definitely in a transition space, and I've had a lot of freedom, and we've had terminally ill family members the last sort of year or so. So it's just been really lovely to kind of roll from parenting into that space, and now I'm popping out the other side, and it's like, okay, where's next? So that's kind of where I am in a nutshell, Sherry.
Yeah, I love that. And I know you and I kind of bonded. We actually met in another group a long time ago for network marketers. We both have that background too of being in network marketing,
yes.
And being able to raise our kids while we did that, but then finding that like, okay, that's like you said, that stage is over now. What's next? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. And I'll share more about that story soon, how we reconnected.
Okay. Yeah. So what did make you decide to join the Academy?
Well, that's a beautiful segue into how we kind of reconnected, because we hadn't seen each other for a long time. It was back in 2019, I think, that we were in that business academy together. And it was random. It was October last year. I was feeling very stuck. And a post came through. One of your Facebook posts just randomly came through my feed. And I thought, who is that lady? When you have people pop through your feed that you haven't spoken to for some time. So I went straight to my messenger and I went, oh, right, we know each other from the business academies. And I knew you had been in network marketing. So I just messaged you and said, hi. And, randomly how your post came through my feed. I said, are you still doing your network marketing? And you said, you pretty much told me where you were and that you'd become a strength finder coach. And of course, I had done my strength finders way back in about 2007. And that's what actually supported me to make the decision around becoming a coach. So we got talking and our journeys were almost parallel. And I thought, wow, this lady, she can really help me. So that's when we had that coaching session in December, and you just helped me unpack so much around my strengths. But you said to me that you were, so we hadn't really talked about the program. You said you were bringing this program out, and you felt that I was further along the way than what I actually possibly, or you thought I was further along the way, maybe from my perspective more than I was. But you'd invited me to take a look, but then you thought maybe it wasn't quite what I needed, but it was a conversation you had with your daughter-in-law at Christmas time, and you came back to me in January and shared that. And I went totally 100%, let's do this. So I jumped on board, and the rest is history, really. So, and of course, one of my strengths, Sherry, is there are no coincidences, right? So I was meant to meet you at that time.
Right. That's what I was going to say, is like, everything happens for a reason. And I love that. I always get it messed up, but what's the reticular activator system in our brain. I think I'm saying that wrong, but where basically it's where there's a part of our brain that once it's engaged to look for something, things start appearing. And I always give the analogy, like if you're going to buy a red sports car and you think you're the only one around that's going to have this red sports car, all of a sudden on the highway, all you see are other red sports cars. They've been there, but it's your mind was not engaged in receiving that. And like I said, there isn't a scientific name for it that I always screw up. But anyway, I feel like sometimes that's what happens, is we think it's a coincidence, or it's also a God wink sometimes, but it's kind of, they work the same, that we throw things out in the universe that, oh, I need this. And the next thing we know, something aligns, something pops up. But we have to be open to accepting that.
Yeah, 100%.
And I love that we did have the conversation. You were open to hearing more, and, we connected in that way. So glad that happened. So there's always another side to that, though. So what could have stopped you from saying yes to doing the Discovering Your Calling Academy?
What could have stopped me? Maybe mindset. Maybe, I don't know. I guess nothing did stop me, and there was nothing that stopped me. It doesn't really make sense, does it? If I looked at, no, I don't know, because at the time I needed this. So I was very open. I think I guess the question might be, if somebody was listening to this or they were looking at the program, what might stop them? And there's a number of things that could stop them. But I would sort of say, if this, like for me, this really aligned, I understood the Strength Finder. I knew how important these strengths were, and I knew that I needed to unpack them more with somebody that knew what they were doing, so that I could make the next move in this next phase of my life. And I remember you saying something, this is the start of this is going to be the next best, this is the start of the next best decade of my life.
Yes.
So I think that's the attitude that I had, that this is opening me up for something new and amazing, and I should embrace it. So I don't know about what would stop me, because it wasn't really an option.
You were ready. You were ready for it.
Yeah. I was totally ready. Yeah. Totally ready. And I always think, if something's aligned and it's the right time, then look at how you can make it happen. Like if it's the finances, how can you make it happen I'm not someone who advocates going into debt. Like I would never want someone to go into debt to do something that I'm promoting. So I would never promote that mindset, but like find a way. And if it's not now, it could be next time. So.
Right. Yeah. And I know, like you and I have talked about before, we're both kind of, it may be a place that we do have maximizer. We like to be with the best and do the best and become the best. And we're both, I call myself a course junkie, we love to learn. We also have, learner there. So it's always loving to learn things and to plug into things. Did you ever have the mindset of like another course or another program? Should I do another one? Did that ever creep in at all? Or was it this one's so aligned?
I'm actually laughing at that, Brad, Sherry, because I'm thinking, how many courses have I done that I'm like, oh yeah, I really want that. I really connect with that. And I am, you and I are so similar, the course junkie. How many courses have I enrolled in over the last few years? I'm huge into personal development. There was something different though about this program, and it was the fact that you'd put together such an incredible program of what we were covering. and it was all around the strength. So this is our DNA. This is God's DNA. This is how we've been created. So there's nothing. It's real stuff that you're working with, and I think that's the difference. Whereas there's a lot of people out there promoting a lot of programs, and I'm not negating any of those programs because there's some fantastic material out there. But I think this really connected for me because it was where I was searching. I've been praying, what's my next move? Where do you want me? Because things weren't aligning for me, and I needed to understand why that was. And when we had that session in December, and you unpacked so much, and I'd shared with you where I was at, it was completely like, oh, wow, that makes complete sense. No wonder I'm so unhappy and unfulfilled in what I'm doing. Even though it's a great business model, it's a great way to make money. Like, I'd spent 10 years in my network marketing company. I'm still working that business. I'm just not building teams. I still service customers. But it just made me really understand who I was. So, yeah, so this is not your normal program that a course junkie is just going to go in and do some personal development. There's some real work to be done, and it's for you, it's for your benefit, and it's helped bring me to where I'm at now with so much more clarity and understanding. And I've got this checklist to bring. Sherry, I keep going to call you Brandy. I've got a friend, Randy, you see. Yeah, so it's like having a checklist. Everything I look at now, I have this checklist, and it's my strengths that I'm aligning it with and going, oh, how does that fit? How does that land? Okay, is that something where I should be focusing and using? And the beautiful thing about most of my strengths is I need to be in relationship-based roles. So.
Other people, yeah. And when I want to back up, instead of saying course junkie, now I am going to say personal development person. We're into personal development. That sounds way better than course junkie. So
yeah, I know, but there's truth in that course junkie thing, right?
Yeah.
I put my hand up. I love personal development, and I think I'm still in a program where I do personal development, and it's really awesome.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we always need that. We always need that ongoing.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
So you talked a little bit about the course already, but could you put your finger on, and I know in one of the forms, I always have people fill out like what they got out of the testimonial or the, after the course form. You had mentioned that you really like the phase 6, where we talked a little bit about the childhood dreams and passions and everything. Would you still say that was like one of your favorite parts to the course, or was there another thing that stood out? I mean, obviously we're hearing that you love the strengths part of it, but was there anything else that kind of jumped out that you really enjoyed doing?
The whole program is amazing. Like, I love doing the vision part, like creating the vision for my life, designing that future. And I'm still working all of that out. But I think I love the exercise that you got us to contact our friends or people that knew us well professionally and personally, just to ask them that question, if they hired us for a day. That was really good, that little activity, simply because it gave me feedback that I didn't know. And it was a lovely journey for others, for me to see how others saw me. So, some of those things that came out, I don't know if it's something I'd want to make a living from, but it was definitely a lovely process to go through. I also loved the Q&As. The Q&As that you Sherry, you just offered so much value, so much incredible value, and the Q&As were incredible every week. And you always went the extra mile, so they were great.
And what did you enjoy the most about that? Like, what did you find so valuable in those sessions?
Yeah, so it was great to be able to do the teaching of the week, do some homework around it, and then come to the Q&A and be supported, and you unpack things more and drill down. That was a really beautiful process.
Yeah. And that's the thing that, for me, again, because we have taken so many courses or programs, is like I tried to take the best of elements from different programs and how to put them in. And I also, because I have taken so many courses myself, that I knew if it was left up to just do the work on your own with no real accountability, the likelihood of not doing the work was very high, because that's how I roll. I know that for myself. There's so many courses I've never finished.
Yeah.
Because nobody was holding me accountable. And I felt like that was something I wanted to add in, because I don't want people to join if they're not going to do the work, and having that
accountability.
Mm-hmm.
That accountability. I'm the same as you. I need accountability. And I think you did that in a really loving, caring way as well. Like, you held the space for people to be accountable, and you put challenging questions out there for people, or, you know, for the participants to really think more deeply. And that's what it's about, Sherry. That's where the value comes from. So yeah, and I don't think all programs offer that accountability. They might offer teaching in a Facebook group, or, you know, pop your questions in, but there's not always that accountability call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I knew, like I said, as a participant, I love when that element is there, and it adds so much more value. So I'm glad that did, because I've heard that from pretty much everybody, that was one of their favorite pieces of it too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent.
And I think too, just on that, like, when during the actual teaching sessions plus the Q&A, because it's a group program, we're actually hearing other participants share and their struggles, their challenges, or their questions around their strength. So there's so much that we can learn from other people sharing, and especially if we have a similar strength, we may find that we are slightly different with that same strength than the other person. So there was lots of learning just from the other participants, actually, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
What may have surprised you that you got out of the being part of the, Discovering Your Calling Academy, that maybe you didn't expect? Was there anything that surprised you from it?
Yeah, actually, that's so what surprised me is when we went through the activity of looking at our previous roles. And what surprised me is I had naturally, so maximizer is my top strength, and I had naturally seeked out a career and positions to feed that maximizer. Not always to the best of their maximizer strength, but it was definitely there. And also, like, if I look at my other strengths, I had it confirmed so much for me, and that was a surprise. I wanted it, but it did surprise me, especially around those positions and the alignment. The other thing was labeling things, like, so just as an example, the floor of my office is not the most, hasn't always been the tidiest over the last few years. And that's because I gather information. I put piles of information because I don't quite know what to do with it. And this is one of my strengths. And it humors me in a beautiful way. But it was something I could go to my husband and say, well, you know how I do this? So it was bringing some humor and lightness around that. Like, now I know why I do this, because I actually gather information so I can share it with people. So, yeah, so it's just, and it's time to kind of do another purge of the office floor.
I love that. And I think that's one of the powerful things, isn't it, about learning our strengths and talents? It's like that like, oh, that's why I need this in my life, or that's why I do this thing that maybe annoys other people, but there's a reason behind it, or that's why they do something that, so it just explains so much in black and white is the way I look at it. It's just like, there's no denying it. This is it, So.
Yes. And I found that through the whole program, it was things that really started to make sense about why I do certain things, who I am as a person. And the other thing that came out for me is, like, I need flexibility in my life. I already knew that, but it labeled it. But secondly, just one of the areas, and phase 7, we went through an area of, like, where do you work best and things, and do you prefer to work alone or in a team or a combination of the two? And I realized, I love just having, like, a structure. I'm told what, if I know what needs to be done, I just like to go in and do it. But I love to be part of a team that are doing it as well. So, and that's where, whether I'm working from home for myself, it can get quite lonely and isolating. So I like to be around a team. So, I'm kind of looking at where to next for me in terms of how that might look, but still giving me that flexibility that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you already mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I know you and I were talking a lot about this before we hit the record, but how has that program, going through the whole Discovering Your Calling Academy, given you this now checklist as you're trying to figure out exactly what's next for you? Because I know you have some ideas and there's a couple different directions you could go, all good. How has it helped you have this now, this filter to run through? What does that look like for you?
So it is a bit like a checklist, and it's because I've been so available for my family, and even as recently as last week, I'm still available for family, family going through surgery and things like that. But it's a time where I realize now this is my time, and I've got those filters in place. So it's really like at the moment, I don't know if I'm going to go and get a full-time job and build my coaching practice around that, whether I roll out a coaching program, whether I go and work part-time. So I'm still working that out. But I think part of that process is exploring those avenues and then deciding. And you might remember when we got to, I think it was about phase 8 of the program, and I actually applied for a job. I was getting so clear, and I just happened to see a job. It just came through my LinkedIn feed, and I went, oh my gosh, that looks like an amazing job that aligns with all my strengths, that would use all my talents. And I applied for it, had the interview, and you were kind of like, oh, that's an interesting step that you're taking, Lee. And I got the role. I was offered the position, but it was my checklist. Once I'd had the interview, I realized the only thing, and it would have had a detrimental effect on me long term, would have been the client I was working with, because I'm a maximizer. I take something that's already good or great to better. And that was just like a light bulb moment. And I thought this would be a great job, but I can't, it wasn't the right role for me or for the client for me to go in there and do that role. Because of the type of person I would have been working with, and it didn't fit my strengths, and it would have frustrated me because that's where I've been with my network marketing business. So yeah, it's a filter, it works, and it's okay to apply for positions, not take them, or apply and then pull out, or decide it's not actually the job I want. But sometimes we have to get into that mindset and try those things just to see, is this really what I want?
Right. Because sometimes we don't know until we're into it. And then it's figuring out, okay, do I need to just tweak some of the things here? Do I need to change some things? Do I need to totally do a 180? Or do I totally need to pull out? It's like sometimes it's just a small adjustment. Sometimes it's major adjustments, but we don't know until we're into it.
Yeah. And the thing too with that, because I've been away from that environment for such a long time, part of me wants to go back there so I can look at and get to see people operating in that space today, because it's a different world today than what it was 5 years plus ago. So women in particular have different needs. So part of me wants to sort of go into that space to see, well, where do I really want to put or create a program, or am I going to do the one-on-one or just the group? I don't know. So that's still, and I'm blessed that I've got that space and that time to take to really work it out.
Right. So, and I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but this is more for somebody listening right now who may be thinking, well, this sounds good, but wait a minute, she doesn't even have clarity. She's still not sure what she's going to do. What would you say to that person that still says, well, wait, no, this program gave me what I needed, and I do have clarity? Because you do have clarity.
Yeah, I do have clarity. There's just so many, there's different. So the thing is, don't compare your story with my story. Mm-hmm. We all have different aspects of life. We are in different places. We've just got different journeys, full stop. So the clarity that I have, there's definitely a lot of clarity. It's just sadly there's a few choices. So I'm still working out which is the one that's going to really meet my needs. And not just mine, it's my family's, and what's the impact I want to create, and where can I create that impact? It might not be working for myself. It could actually be in a workplace. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I wouldn't compare my story with your story. I would definitely jump on board. Honestly, your program, Sherry, has unpacked so much for me, and it's given me so much clarity. And I've now just got to decide, well, which path am I going to go and lock it in? And I'm exploring a few of those right now. So
yeah,
in a month's time, it might be a very different conversation.
Right? And it's all good again. And that's, you heard me say this, Lee, over and over again in the program. And I say it all the time. It's like, it's all exploring. It's all testing. It's a huge experiment, but we can't sit and look and know on paper what we want to do. We have to get out there. And, I had you guys, like the one thing you talked about, just talking to your friends, like you have to get out from behind the desk or from behind a certain job. If you're listening and you're stuck behind one job, it's like you have to get out there and explore it and be willing to test and be willing to say, and it's not failure, because we hear that a lot. And I know in the group, we had a couple of women that were really afraid of failure, and it's not. And that's what I love about you, Lee, is you are willing to test it out. You're willing to get out there and go try it and know that it's not failure if that's not the right answer. That was a trial. That was a test. And no, that wasn't the right answer, but you tried it.
Yes. And it's interesting that you say that, because when I came out of the program, I had a questionnaire, and I was sitting down with women in business and I was going through this questionnaire, and I won't go into the detail around that, but I actually came out and I was mindful of the women I was speaking to, and I realized they weren't necessarily the ladies that I wanted to work with. So that was a great exercise, and it's just taken me on a path like of the exploring, but I still have the clarity of how and where I want to use my maximizer and my other strengths and pulling that together. So there is no failure. Everyone's on a different journey, and people get things like, when I came out of the program, I had so much clarity. When I started to explore that clarity, it took me into a different path. Yeah. So, it's a journey. And I remember you said at the very start of the program, along the lines of, you may or may not come out of the program fully sure of your next step, but you'll have so much greater insight into how you can move forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you deliver with. And I don't believe we can put a price on finding out what our DNA is. Like, how many of us go through decades of employment or business, and we get to the other end and we go, well, I still don't know what my strengths are. And that's where you come in, and you are phenomenal at supporting us, Sherry, with that.
Thank you. And I love it. Yeah, that's so true. What a great thing to say, just that you can't put a price tag on that. And I think, again, just listening to what you just said, I feel like too, what happens in the program is like people get crystal clear on who they are at their absolute best, what they want in the world, what the non-negotiables are for your life, what you don't want to do. And maybe that's where more the clarity comes in, is like, you don't want to take this path, and you don't want to take this path, but there's a couple good paths up here, and you just got to try them, like we said, to figure out which one's the best path. And maybe they both are. I don't know. Again, it's a big experiment. We don't know until you go, until you try it.
Absolutely. And I the one thing, when I work with any of my clients one-on-one, I've always said to them, like, in terms of cost, like, this is an investment in ourselves, and what's the return on the investment? Like, what do you need to do? Like, with a new job, so say somebody comes into the program and they've got a job and they're not happy. Well, are they looking for extra income? Well, what's the cost of the program? And coming through this process, like, I'm pretty confident. Like, I know one of the participants got a new job on this journey, and it gave her more money. So, you're reaping back that return on investment. So I think never get caught up in the cost of something. This is such a great program, and Sherry, you've put so much thought into it as well. Like, I've just got the 12 phases in front of me, and it's like, yeah, this is really great. So I can only say good things.
Oh, thank you. And I'm not paying Lee to doing that.
Just for the record.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think that's so important to be mindful of. Like, what can hold us back is the money. But like, when you want that change, it's stepping across that line and not having that fear. And I think fear could, I think I'm going back to that question earlier on, what could stop me from joining is maybe the fear of not getting it, the fear of not moving forward. But, fear is a thief of dreams. We want to move forward and invest in yourself and get another job so you can afford to pay for something, or you'll be completely blessed. So
right you come out on the other side knowing again who you are at your absolute best and what you need to show up in the world and what the world needs you to show up as. So
yes, and I think with that it also puts you in a very empowering place, Sherry, to say no to things as well.
I love that. Yeah, empowering place to say no to things.
Yes.
Oh,
definitely.
So many women need that. Yeah. Anything else, Lee? You've gave so much information, so many valuable insights. I love you. You're such a great communicator. So many great words to say. Yeah. Anything else that we didn't hit on that you wanted to say today?
I could keep talking with you for hours, Sherry, but I really think, for someone, like, I'm always looking to add value when I do anything, whether it's a podcast or a live or a post on social media. And I think there's so much value in this program. And if your listeners are sitting on the fence, or they're in that place where I was, like, almost a year ago when we first met on Facebook again, like, there's no coincidence that we met. I was in complete limbo. I was stuck. I was not feeling great about myself. I was just questioning so much. And I know there's so many ladies out there that are like that, whether we have come through, and I think, that midlife lady, I learned the other day, midlife ladies, we're 45 to 60. So I think I might extend that. But I think we bring up our families. We so much into our lives, into our careers or our businesses, and our family and extended family takes so much from us, and that's a beautiful thing. But there's a point where we get to in our life, and generally what I've noticed is it's us midlifers. It's we hit 50 and we're looking for that next thing, and it's not a next hit, it's that next thing. I'm going to a different phase. We're becoming empty nesters. Our children are going off to university or college. So if that's you today, like, reach out to Sherry, have a conversation, and if anyone wants to ask me any questions, they can obviously connect with me. But go for it. Don't waste another year sitting on, I'm not happy, I want something more for my life, because life is short, and the runway is getting shorter and shorter for us 50 pluses.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And how can, if somebody wants to follow your journey to see how you progress, and just follow you on Facebook, because Lee does put out so many great positive. If you need to fill your Facebook up with some positivity, you have to follow Lee. So how can they find you on Facebook or your social platform of choice?
Yeah, so Facebook is the best place to follow me. So it's Lea, Lea Bartram, Bartram. I'll share the link with you, Sherry, so you can pop it down below. But yeah, follow me on Facebook. I'm not always as diligent these last few months. I've been taking a bit of a break from Facebook and social media, and just kind of doing something when I'm inspired. But that's going to change. So love to follow me on Facebook and give me a reason to inspire some people.
And you do always. I love reading your posts, Lee. They are always inspirational. And uplifting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a business page, Lea Bartram Coaching. So I often just duplicate what I do on my private page onto that. And again, it's just getting some inspiration, but more will come as I get that clarity over the next sort of few weeks of my next move as well. So.
Right. And I know we keep saying things, but you're in this kind of figuring out stage, but for your coaching, just in case somebody's listening here too, like, who is your favorite person to coach right now?
That's a great question. My heart is to coach that mum or that midlife woman. She is stuck. She's frustrated. She's so busy, and she's got the mum guilt, busy with her children, over here with the children, not putting 100% into her business, or she's with the children, feeling guilty, not putting 100% into her. Did I just say that twice? Let me re-clarify that. Yeah, if you're the mum and you're guilty, you're struggling, or you've got, you're sandwich generation, you've got the children, you've got the aging parents, you feel guilty because you're not spending that time in the business. When you're in the business, you're guilty because you're not with your aging parents or your children. That's where I really love to come in and support the mindset around and set the goals that are going to support a client to move forward, because it's when we get that helicopter view of our life and our business. And I work holistically. I guess I'm a bit of a life coach for business owners, but you could also be a professional woman who's struggling as to, get it's the head, getting all that jumbled thinking out of the head, out of the way, and getting that clarity. So getting that helicopter view is what I love to do.
Nice. So,
and putting more money in your back pocket.
Right, there you go. So, well, Lee, again, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here, and love working with you, and doing this journey together, because again, we're both stepping into the best decade of our life. So
absolutely. Yes. Well, I really appreciate you inviting me on today, Sherry, and and all the best with your adventures coming up too. I'm going to watch you on all your travels as well. So thanks so much.
Thank you.